Thanks, Mdu. Let's get into our book review chat for this morning. Professor Mandla Radebe reminds us that freedom is not a date in history. It's a daily struggle for justice. And that comes through in his offering, Apartheid Did Not Die, South Africa's Unfinished Revolution. Professor Mandla Radebe makes a bold and uncomfortable argument that the same structures of power, privilege and inequality still shapes who owns, who eats and who matters. So he joins us now virtually, perhaps unpack on our book review segments this morning. So on that note, Prof. Mandla, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
So obviously the title itself is an ode, a play on words to the beloved John Paul Joe, who obviously would have had the documentary back in 1998. And this is something you reference in chapter 3. And so thank you for also highlighting his work. And so now, South Africa's Unfinished Revolution, this is where you pick up and to set the scene. I mean, you reflect on the early years of democracy with both hope and heartbreak. We look at the gaps, but also the strides. And I just wonder for you, doing and delving into this research, looking back, where we mistook political freedom for social justice, where did that illusion begin for us? I mean, you're of the view that apartheid's architecture has just been repainted.
Absolutely. And so obviously, as you say, the book is just a reflection of the 30 years of our democracy and the number of things that we must celebrate, because certainly when we say we play with these words and what John Pilger would have said, that apartheid did not die, but of course, its structures remain intact. There's a long and short of this. And I suppose that the euphoria that accompanied the democratic breakthrough in 1994 masked the reality that at the heart of the apartheid project was racial capitalism and its structures to exploit the indigenous population in South Africa, and that has not changed.
Well, so Prof, I actually want to get into that a little further, because there is a line in the book where you say that those who inherited the power also inherited the system that protects it. And I wonder if you were critiquing the leadership since 1994, or was that just a challenge perhaps to all of us who've become comfortable given the lived realities, the inequality that continues to perpetuate in society?
Absolutely, it's a challenge for everyone. In particular, I usually say that it's a challenge for the younger generation that must take the cudgels and take the transformation of our country forward. The fact of the matter is that if we are not going to analyze the structure that perpetuates the oppression of the majority of the people, the social justice challenges that we face in the country, we are not going to be able to talk about the essence of transformation, because the structures remain intact. So I think for me, for us, as we reflect, as we celebrate what we have to celebrate as a country, because there's a lot to celebrate, absolutely no doubt about it.
Yes.
But of course, going forward, there are structures that we have to deal with, and I hope the younger generation will understand that at the essence of the struggle of liberation was the need to deal with the structures that held the oppression of the majority people together.
Yeah, you mentioned how apartheid and capitalism are conjoined twins. And so that's just your point as well that you've reiterated throughout the book, but even this morning. But as a media scholar yourself, I mean, you've also been very vocal. I mean, chapter 3 itself also delves into how the media can also maintain that status quo. You write that stories of transformation often hide stories of inclusion. Perhaps you could explain it a little bit more, given the hegemony that obviously perpetuates some of the arguments that you say when it comes to ideologies of capitalism, perpetuating neocolonialism as well. Perhaps explain that a little bit further for us.
Absolutely. There's a concept I use when I deal in the chapter of media imperialism. The long and short of that is that the media itself is located in these power structures, and therefore it's not something that is standing outside of society. I know that the media would like to position themselves as a fourth estate, but in essence, the media is inherently part of the structures of power, and it is therefore plays a fundamental role to mask over a number of challenges that are facing the majority of the people. And one way the media does that, obviously, it has to be understood from its ownership patterns and its funding model that relies on advertising. So the commercial factors of the media drives it to represent the subalternized, the marginalized people in a particular way. Let me just give you one example how the media does that. Is that if you look at a number of stories that are about the transformation in this country, whether there is a discourse of nationalization, whether there's a discourse of land expropriation, the people who will be given voices in those discourses are the elites, those who are close or who have close proximity to power. And therefore, in that way, the media reproduces and perpetuates the discourses of power.
And so, Prof, this is also why you advocate for a decommodified form of media as well, which is interesting because we're obviously seeing where we are and revenues. Yes, you spoke about the models. It has to be challenged. So it's interesting to see that argument as well. But you also caution against celebrity journalism. That's also something that you delve in further. But I think beyond what you're speaking about, you also challenge us, right? There's a call to action for a new type of political consciousness as well, one that's not trapped by the myths of rainbowism. And I wonder how you then see this playing out, especially amongst the youth, the next generation, right? You've got the Fees Must Fall movements, that generation refusing to allow what the older generation has done. But I wonder if it's not just also beyond diagnosing, right? It's also a reckoning of sorts. What must be then buried to really make this true liberation possible?
I love looking at how the youth deals with the challenges that are facing the country. I'm not sure if you've been following, I think they call it the manga.
Yes.
Character of the young people across the globe. That has been fascinating for me, and I've absolutely no doubt that this is gonna come to South Africa. And if you look at the essence of their argument is on social justice, is on structures of power, is on issues of inequality, and precisely what we are dealing with in South Africa. So I think for me it is crucial that when the youth take up these struggles, whether it's a struggle of hashtag Fees Must Fall or Roads Must Fall or whatever the struggle is, it is important to properly and correctly locate it in our correct historical perspective so that we understand that when we resolve a number of challenges that we are faced with as a country, we do not miss the fact that there are structures that are designed not to ensure that everyone has a good life, but that everyone is exploited for the benefit of the few. And I think it is important, therefore, that as the young people take up these struggles, they understand what are these structures and how power in society is allocated. In the essence, the political economy of everything else that exists in this country.
Yeah, well, Prof, I know that there are so many more questions and answers as well, particularly because we've passed over that 30-year, point of democracy, and we're acknowledging what has worked, but obviously just some of the challenges that continue to perpetuate that triple threats of poverty and unemployment and inequality. Although our time is up, so I'm going to have to leave it there, but thank you for your time and thank you for weighing in. It's certainly going to serve as a conversation starter for many, many more discussions to come, but particularly as we enter local government elections and perhaps navigate the next chapter of our country's history as well. Professor Mandla Radebe is author of Apartheid Did Not Die, South Africa's Unfinished Revolution. Of course, joining us this morning, bright and early on our book review segment. Thank you to him for joining us.